Bigfoot is one of the most interesting cryptids out there, perhaps because it's the one cryptid that most resembles us. For years now, people have been coming forward with their encounters with these elusive creatures, being able to provide photographic evidence along with casts of footprints. However, it's also known for causing interesting discussions. Some think that the humanoid exists in small groups, while others have said it's not possible that such a large humanoid could exist in our world without being seen more frequently. They point to the fact there would need to be a large group of them to survive, and if this was the case they'd be seen a lot more often. Others, however, disagree with this notion, and have said that for thousands of years man has been encountering these giants, with reports coming from Tibet, America and even Australia. However, some people take it a step further and claim that they've managed to interact with these creatures. One of these is a 70-year-old woman who's detailed that she's been communicating with and raising a Bigfoot for almost a decade. Her incredible story details that she's raised the baby Bigfoot since it was young, and that she's even managed to teach it a few words. The woman said she can back up her story with photographs and videos, but as of right now has decided not to release these. She first encountered the Bigfoot back in 1964 in a swamp in Louisiana, saying that the creature was weak and only weighed roughly 20 pounds. She then thought that if she didn't do anything the creature might pass away. Wanting to avoid this, she took the baby Bigfoot home and started to raise it. When she got home she fed the Bigfoot, saying that its favourite food was eggs, tomatoes and goat's milk. After a couple of meals and getting the creature back on its feet, she said she released it back into the wild where it belonged. However, every time she did this she said it refused to leave and would always find its way back to her. Over the next 8 years, she continued to raise and feed the animal, but said when it reached adulthood she moved away. In 1974 she moved into a nearby town and said she had to leave the creatures behind, something she said wasn't easy. She said the following about the whole experience. "He was so little and so cute. I had to do something about it. He was so defenseless, lying next to the mud and water curled up crying like a baby. His parents either passed away or had abandoned him. He brought a friend home with him. At first the other guy was shy, hiding behind the bushes, but little by little he began to trust me. So there we were sitting on my porch, 2 Bigfoots and I having dinner under the moon. Bigfoots are real and they happen to be excellent creatures, docile and better than most people, and by the way they don't smell bad like some people say. I've given you a story, tell it, that's all I want. Only another person besides you knows my secret now, and that's my friend Maggie." It's an interesting story, but as with most of these, certain questions will be put forward. You have to provide evidence when it comes to these sorts of claims, as although they make for great stories, we need to see evidence to back up what's being said. However, even some people within the science community have come forward and said that we shouldn't dismiss these sightings. One question that's been put forward is, does forensic science back up Bigfoot claims? Jeff Meldrum, professor of autonomy and anthropology at the Idaho State University, have said he thinks it does, and who better to believe than an expert in the evolutionary morphology, that is the study of how primates adapted to bipedalism. In his research, Meldrum studies footprints to determine how humans have evolved for upright walking. He studies samples from Africa, as well as other places all around the world. Meldrum attributes his interest in Bigfoot to a track he discovered in southeastern Washington. It was here he says he found a fresh track, so fresh he could see the skin ridges in detail. The print was at least 14 inches long. That first sighting was over 20 years ago. Since then Meldrum has studied over 300 footprints, as well as hundreds of photos of Bigfoot. When describing these cars, Meldrum said the feet are broader and flatter than humans. He also noted the lack of an arch and thumb-like big toe that would be similar to an ape's. Instead, there was a big toe more like a human's. The toes were longer, presumably to help navigate the uneven terrain. Furthermore, based on the imprint, Meldrum believed the prints couldn't have been manufactured as some have said. The print is pressed into the ground in such a way that it shows flexibility. He noted that these prints are usually adapted to allow large primates to walk on two legs. To Meldrum, this evidence is proof that Bigfoot may exist, and it would be ridiculous to simply discount his evidence. Meldrum doesn't simply believe in Bigfoot, he is certain the creatures exist. Other researchers have pointed out that large humanoid creatures have been reported for at least the last 10,000 years, saying that ancient man has detailed their encounter with what they say are large humans. Going back, old tales in Australia said the Yowie were the original inhabitants of the Australian continent, but were completely driven out of their native lands by the men that came there to settle. However, every so often eyewitness accounts come from Australia, detailing that they've seen what looks like a Bigfoot creature. Going down the Yowie rabbit hole leads to further theories, from Australian government officials covering up further evidence, to Yowies being involved in many of the extraterrestrial and unidentified flying object sightings all around Australia. There's even subgroups of the Yowie community that defend the idea that Yowie might be an alien species, and that the Bigfoot monsters and variations could all be extraterrestrial species. The Yowie creature is commonly encountered in Queensland, with many of the eyewitnesses saying this creature is unlike anything they've seen before. Ever since humans invented the camera, thousands of iconic photographs have been taken, showcasing some of humanity's best and worst moments. However, cameras have also picked up on some strange things, leading people to study them further. Paranormal researchers have said that one of the best ways to capture an apparition is by using a camera. In recent years, hundreds of photographs have been presented by everyday people, claiming that they've captured a genuine apparition, and what's strange is that the majority of these people didn't even know it was there. It's not until reviewing these photographs that they realised that something was there. This happened with one mother who took a photograph on her phone. The story goes that she was trying to take a photograph of her friends and daughter, but every time she went to take the picture, her daughter said she wanted to leave. The mother was confused by this but told her to stand still while the picture was being taken. Again though, the daughter made a fuss and said she didn't want to be there because the little boy was scaring her. The mother was again confused as there was no little boy in the room. The girl then starts to cry and walk out of the photograph. This is a story all too familiar with parents raising young children, and she thought this was just her daughter acting out. However, after reviewing the photograph, she saw something strange in the left-hand corner. She zoomed in and could see the outline of her face in the gap of her friend's leg. It was then that she realised this may have been what her daughter was referring to, saying that whatever she saw really spooked her. She wanted to leave the group photo as soon as possible. It's been speculated by paranormal researchers that babies and young infants are much closer to the non-physical energy that we all originate from. This spiritual connection with Source enables them to remain open to the vibrations around them. As babies grow, researchers say they lose this close connection, and it almost becomes dormant. Some believe that before birth, a baby's spirit exists in an in-between realm, between their mother's womb and their spirit world. This is allegedly why so many young adults claim to see paranormal entities in their younger years. While being young, is said the veil between their world and the earth realm is very thin, which allows them to see things adults can't. Paranormal experts have said there are some common signs that can indicate that your baby is seeing spirits, or sensing spirits around them. One of the most common ones is that the baby frequently stares at a particular spot of a room. Baby is laughing or smiling at something you cannot see. Baby is completely mesmerized by something they see, even when you're doing your best to get their attention, and baby happily laughs and cries when they're alone in their cot. Interestingly, paranormal researchers have said that ghost children are one of the most commonly reported apparitions. Going back in 1970, the first old spaghetti factory opened in Gastown. It was known to the locals as a great place to eat them for its atmosphere. However, over time people noticed that strange things would happen inside the restaurant. People would see flickering shadows dart across the room, and hear strange noises seemingly coming from nowhere. It's believed by researchers that 4 ghosts occupy the spaghetti factory, with the most famous of these entities being that of the tram conductor. Many people came forward and said they encountered his spirit, further saying that it's as if he doesn't want to leave the area. People who died here said that one of the most common places to see him was near the old trolley car that was parked inside the restaurant. The trolley was number 53, and going back it belonged to the British Columbia Electric Railway Company's fleet of electric trams. The trolley car was placed in the building in 1969, and it's been debated whether he was attached to the car. Some theorize that something traumatic happened to him, and that's why he hasn't been able to leave. Although this sounds far-fetched, there are those that say paranormal entities can attach themselves to objects, with some of the most famous examples being that of Annabelle and Robert the Doll. The next ghost at the old spaghetti factory is known as a mischievous spirit. Those who frequently visited the restaurant said this spirit would often try and scare the public. He was encountered most at night, with some saying they refused to enter the restaurant after seeing him. One woman said that she encountered this spirit in the bathroom, saying that it caused her to never use the bathroom again. She claimed to have heard a creepy laugh coming from one of the stalls. Confused and scared, she asked if anyone was in there and needed assistance. However, instead of getting a response, she saw the ghostly apparition of a boy run past. This apparition was allegedly seen by one of the waitresses who was working a late shift. She claimed that she was packing up and saw a young boy running around the restaurant. Confused and worried that a child had been left behind, she decided to investigate, but when she saw the boy she realized it was an apparition. The frightening encounter caused her to resign the next day and never return. Others who have worked the late shift have said they've put out cutlery for the next day, but when inspecting them the next morning some of them had been bent. However, when the waitresses reported this to the manager, when they returned to inspect what had happened, the cutlery had mysteriously been turned back to normal. This is one of the reasons why people say a mischievous spirit is responsible for these actions. Interestingly, the restaurant decided to bring in a psychic in order to get to the bottom of what was happening. They confirmed the building has so many apparitions because there was a vortex in the back of the restaurant, and that various ghosts had attached themselves to some of the older artifacts. So what do you make of this photograph? Do you think that ghost children exist? And do you believe that entities have the power to inhabit everyday objects? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below, and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.